Day 1 Crota is in 2 days, and I wanted to talk about what are the best weapons to bring in, have on standby, and common weapons you'll be seeing everybody use during the raid. We're going to go in order with kinetic slot, energy slot, and heavy slot, and talk about exotics and legendaries in each slot. With that being said, there's a lot of weapons to go over, so we're going to try and move through this list pretty quick. Also, remember, if you want to get your games for a cheaper price, check out Instant Gaming, top link in the description. Alright, let us begin with kinetic exotics. First and foremost, your most important ones I would have on standby is Anagi's Burden and Arbalest. Next up, we have Witherhoard, because Witherhoard's always good. Although if you're using it during a boss phase, remember, only one person can have the dot ticking at a time. If you are running an exotic primary in your kinetic slot, I'm going to recommend Osteo. Freaking love that gun. If you're on Strain, you could use Quicksilver. I have 2 honorable mentions in Thorn, and then Rat King for the opening encounter during the Abyss. You could easily just use it to chain free invis if you want to go that route and you're not on a hunter. And the last thing I want to mention in the kinetic exotic slot is a final stand, last ditch effort of DPS. You have 0 ammo, so you have to use a primary. Something like Outbreak or Touch of Malice, especially with its recent buff. And if you're on a hunter, don't even think about it. Bring on Malfeasance if it's not disabled, which we will find out during the TWID tomorrow. Let's talk about kinetic legendary weapons. The only legendary primary that I'm bringing personally is a Fatebringer. Hand cannon buff, explosive payload frenzy, double damage roll. It'll fare greatly in a contest mode setting. Good special weapons would be obviously a Riptide with either Chill Clip or Vorpal. I'd have on a good shotgun on standby. If you want to go the slug route, Heritage or Fortissimo. And if you're an Arc Hunter, definitely have on a 1-2 punch shotgun for sure. And a utility weapon that I just want to mention is a Blinding GL, as there are gatekeepers which are immune to every damage except from the sword bearer. So a Blinding GL might be useful. Honorable mention for the kinetic legendaries is going to be a Supremacy with kinetic trimmers. Enhanced kinetic trimmers only takes 2 shots to proc on a sniper rifle, so it can be used in a damage rotation. It can take out some majors at a distance. Overall, it can be pretty useful. And also, don't forget, if you really want to min-max your damage, have someone on your team with Illumina. Those are the kinetic weapons that you will definitely be seeing used during the day 1, and some of the ones that you should aim to bring in. Let's talk about the energy weapons now. In the exotic slot, we have Sunshot. Hand cannon buff, amazing on solar builds. Divinity, self-explanatory. Trinity Ghoul in it. Trinity Ghoul can deal with low tier adds, even under leveled, pretty well. Definitely worth giving it a mention. I will mention Horseman as well. It has very, very high burst DPS, which can be useful in a lot of situations. Not saying to use it on Crota himself or Ute, but who knows. But it's also really good for majors. Honorable mentions, I have Merciless, really, really good fusion DPS. Especially for a special weapon, it's really, really good. And then I also have on Risk Runner, because there's a lot of arc damage in this raid. Especially in the first half. Hive Boomers, Wizards, they all do arc damage. And Thrall Melees are also arc damage. Figured it'd be worth at least mentioning it. For our energy legendary weapons, we have Building a Gun, aka Forbearance. That's a given. That's a given. Any strong fusion rifle that you may have. Examples, obviously Cartesian Coordinate. However, if you don't have a Cartesian, this season, the Eremite, which is one of the seasonal weapons, is a really good replacement for Cartesian, especially if you're on tractor cannon duty. Eremite has Envious Assassin and Controlled Burst, really good for sustained DPS, especially if you're on tractor cannon duty. Other good fusion rifles would be Irritative Loop or Techian Force, which is the last raid fusion rifle. I recommend a good trace rifle, preferably one with shoot to loot so you get a little bit of utility. If you were lucky enough to have the old retrace path, good for you. However, the modern day only way to get a trace rifle with shoot to loot is a path of least resistance. However, if you don't have any of those two, still any good trace rifle will do well. Hollow Denial, Acacia's Ejection, to name a few. A swap GL if you're going to use a bait and switch rocket launcher, something like Empty Vessel or Wilderflight, and then maybe a slug or a sniper if you're using either of those in a rotation, or using them for some healthier majors. The one legendary primary that I will be having on, at least on standby, is the Zali's Bane, which is basically the legendary version of the Sunshot. That is the King's Fall hand cannon. Those are going to be the juicers that you're going to be seeing during day 1 in the energy slot. And now we arrive at what you could argue the most important slot, the juicer slot, your heavy weapon, that you'll definitely be seeing inside of the day 1 raid, along with some other heavy exotics that you might want to have on standby. The 2 exotic heavy weapons I guarantee you'll see are Tractor Cannon. It's a weapon that applies a 30% debuff for 8 seconds, and theoretically, if you do it perfectly, 2 shots of a tractor cannon will outlast the length of a deadfall tether. And since tractor cannon can hold up to 17 shots, you're pretty good on the debuff department, my boy. No other weapon does what tractor cannon does. You're gonna see it on Friday and Saturday. And our other, you're definitely gonna see this exotic, is the G-Horn. Obviously, only one person in your fire team needs to be running the G-Horn to give the other legendary rocket launchers Wolfpack rounds, but you know I have to mention the good old Galley. An exotic that I feel can be a little bit underrated sometimes, but is really good in a contest mode setting, especially against healthier majors, is going to be the Xenophage exotic LMG. This thing hits like a truck, and because of that, it is amazing for dealing with healthier majors, especially at a distance. You don't have to worry about hitting any crits. You just hit the target, it's going to do a good chunk of their health. Trust me, Xenophage can be really used in a contest mode setting. Let's talk about our honorable mention exotic heavy weapons. Since a lot of people are thinking that Iryu's going to be an actual boss encounter, which I do too, if we are able to Acarius her, I have Acarius on here. You never know. You never know. We also have Parasite and Grand Overture, just as some honorable mentions. Some people love Grand Overture. And Parasite has the single biggest burst damage shot in the game. Granted, your damage falls off significantly afterwards, but figured I'd at least mention the Parasite. And then I have Thunderlord as well, because everybody loves Thunderlord. Figured I'd get crucified if I didn't mention Thunderlord, so I'm mentioning Thunderlord. Also, on the slightest of off chances that for some reason that Iryu just coded as a vehicle, have your Wardcliff coil ready, because the daughters on the day 1 Oryx fight, they got absolutely chunked by Wardcliff. This game is spaghetti code after all, so you just never know. Let's talk about your legendary heavy weapons. Starting off with your most important utility tool, your Eager Edge Sword. Either one, it doesn't matter, but having that good utility and moving around quicker with your Eager Edge Sword is definitely going to be nice. We have the big time juicers, your legendary rocket launchers. I'm going to recommend bait and switch rockets, or if you want to go the lazy route, bipod rocket launchers. The Apex Predator can get both of these perks, not at the same time, but either or. You could craft 2 Apexes and have these go ready to go, like me and my fire team do. Bipod, you can hold up to like 14 rockets, so you have plenty of ammo to dump. And the last legendary heavy weapon that I'm going to recommend to you guys is, say it with me now, Fixed Odds, the GOAT. Really, I'm just recommending a good LMG. LMGs this day and age are very, very strong. And since the first 2 encounters, there's not going to be any bosses or anything like that. That's where I would imagine you would be seeing LMGs being used the most. So I'm going to recommend a strong legendary LMG. If you like commemoration, by all means, brother man, do your thing. But me personally, I love Fixed Odds, so I'm mentioning Fixed Odds. Let me know your main 3 weapons you're bringing into day 1 Crota on Friday. Thank you for watching the video. Consider subscribing. You guys be safe, and we'll see you in the next one.